They set up the single dad as a joke on a blind date with an obese girl, but his words left everyone in tears. The rain fell gently against the window pane of that quiet cafe in Portland, Oregon, a soft hush over a world that often forgets how to listen. Inside, Rowan Mercer adjusted his collar, his fingers nervously tracing the edge of the napkin on the table. A single dad of 6-year-old Lily, Rowan rarely had time or the heart for dating. But after months of gentle nudging from his so-called friends, he'd finally agreed to one blind date. Just one. What he didn't know was that it was a setup, not out of kindness, but cruelty. Across the room, his 3 friends, Mark, Derek, and Paul, watched with smirks, whispering behind their coffee cups. They'd chosen Corinne Ashford specifically because she didn't fit their shallow standards of beauty. "He'll run screaming," Mark had laughed. "Bet he won't even sit down." But Rowan did. When Corinne walked in, her shoulders slightly hunched as if trying to take up less space, Rowan stood, not out of pity, but out of respect. He offered a warm smile and held out a chair. "You must be Corinne. I've been looking forward to meeting you." She blinked, surprised. No one had looked forward to meeting her in years. Their conversation began hesitantly, then flowed like a quiet river finding its path. They spoke of books, of late-night worries, of the ache that comes from being misunderstood. Corinne, a children's librarian, confessed how people often assume she's loud or brash just because of her size. Rowan shared how raising Lily alone after his wife's passing had taught him that love isn't about perfection, it's about presence. "I used to think I needed to be flawless for my daughter, but she just needs me to be there, to listen, to show her that kindness matters more than appearances." Corinne's eyes shimmered. No one had ever spoken to her like that, like she mattered, not despite her body, but simply because she existed. Then, inevitably, the moment came. As Corinne excused herself to the restroom, Mark sauntered over with his friends in tow. "Dude, you're really gonna sit there and pretend this is a real date? We thought you'd walk out the second you saw her." Rowan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Not yet. Seconds later, Corinne returned and saw them. The smirks, the hushed laughter, the way they glanced at her like she was a punchline. Her heart sunk. Of course, she'd been played again. She turned to leave, tears already blurring her vision, until Rowan's voice, calm but firm, rang out. "Corinne, wait." He stood, turned to his so-called friends, and spoke so clearly the entire cafe fell silent. "Corinne is one of the most thoughtful, intelligent, and kind people I've met in a long time. She carries herself with more grace and dignity than any of you ever could. You set this up as a joke, but you just showed me exactly who you are. And I don't want my daughter growing up thinking people like you are worth listening to." Mark scoffed. "Come on, man, it was just a prank." "No," Rowan said, his voice steady. "It was cruelty hiding behind a laugh. And I've learned, through grief, through fatherhood, that the world doesn't need more mocking. It needs more people willing to see each other, truly see each other." He turned back to Corinne, his eyes soft. "I'm sorry you had to hear that, but I meant every word. I'd be honored to keep getting to know you if you'll still have me." Corinne couldn't speak. Tears streamed down her cheeks, not from shame, but from relief. From being seen. From being chosen. One by one, Rowan's friends shuffled away in embarrassed silence. The cafe patrons, who'd been pretending not to listen, now watched with quiet admiration. Rowan gently took Corinne's hand. "How about we get out of here? There's a little park down the street with a bench under an old oak tree. Perfect for talking. or just sitting in comfortable silence. She nodded, squeezing his hand in return. Weeks later, Lily met Karen and immediately declared her the best storytime lady ever. Rowan watched them laugh over picture books, his heart fuller than it had been in years. As for Karen, she no longer walked with her shoulders hunched. She walked tall, because someone had shown her she was worth standing for. This story isn't just about a date. It's about the moment one man chose empathy over entertainment. It's about the courage to stand up, not just for someone else, but for what's right, even when it costs you friendships. In a world quick to judge and slow to understand, Rowan's words echo like a lighthouse in the storm. See the person, not the packaging. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of the power of kindness in a cynical world, we'd be honored if you liked, shared, and subscribed to ACA Storytells. Your support helps us bring more stories of second chances, quiet bravery, and the miracles hidden in ordinary moments. Don't forget to comment below. Have you ever been the one who stood up, or the one who was finally seen? And tell us where you're watching from. We love knowing our story reached you wherever you are. Stay kind, stay brave, and never underestimate the impact of one honest, loving choice. Because sometimes, one moment of courage changes everything. Thanks for watching.